Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. We are really excited to be with you guys today because it has been a little bit since we've been with you. I was on vacation, and so I was gone away for I think close to 12 days, which was awesome. And that actually pertains to our episode today. We're talking about build a self-managing team that runs without you. Wouldn't that be amazing? Think about that. Imagine a full week off or more, and you have everything running. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. You're making money, and you're not having to constantly, micromanage and monitor every single person and every single scenario and take care of everything all by yourself. Wouldn't that be an amazing life? Well, I can tell you, listen, if you have a great partner like Troy, if you got a great business partner, then you don't have to worry about it. Troy just takes care of everything. No, he does really though. But we've also built an amazing team, and everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing it. And that's something we want to talk about today because it's so important. As you all know, being an entrepreneur, it is so important to re-energize those batteries. If you don't, you're going to get burnt out, and burnout means, falling planes, right? Like you do not want to be burned out. You don't want to be the pilot in the sky who hasn't slept enough, which most pilots have not slept enough. And Troy can tell you that's the truth because Troy was a commercial airline pilot, but you know what I mean when I say getting burned out with business. And sometimes these getting away for a little bit is what we look forward to, even if it's not for a while. So, all right, everybody, let's jump in. This is going to be a really good episode. We got a lot of great information in here for you guys. So go ahead, Troy, let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just talk about why self-management matters, right? The biggest problem is most business owners unintentionally become the bottleneck because everything has to flow through them, right? I mean, think about it. Why did you start your business? Because you didn't want to have a job and work for somebody else. You wanted to get the freedom that you thought came from owning a business until you realized that now you're working even more hours than you ever worked before because you're the bottleneck. Everything is going through you, right? So how do you build a business that everything isn't going through you? How do you have, like Trevor said, that self-managing team that can actually take care of things? And that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? Because here's the thing. If you're the bottleneck, it's going to be slower decision-making, right? Everything has to come to you. You have to make a decision. You're also going to get burned out, right? If you're having to make every single decision, if every employee is coming into your office 20 times a day saying, hey, boss, what should I do about this? What should I do with this customer? You're going to burn out because now you're not just doing your job. You feel like you're doing everybody else's job too on top of it, right? And you're going to have limited scalability. How are you going to scale your business when you have to be involved in every single part of your business and every single decision, right? So the shift is you're moving from the doer to the manager, and then eventually you're becoming the leader, right? So you started out the doer, you were out there, if you're a pest control company, you're spraying, right? You're spraying for the pests. And then you hire on your first employees, and now you become the manager, and you're managing those employees, and you spend all of your time managing and training them. Well, eventually you want to become the leader where you're not managing them anymore. You're leading the company and focused on those most important things, right? So that's the shift we're trying to make here. Okay, so step one, you got to build systems that remove the guesswork. And this is one of the hardest things, right? Because a team can only self-manage when the path is clear. Mm-hmm. They have to know exactly what to do and how to do it in order to manage themselves. If you haven't created those things, put those in place, how are they ever going to be able to manage themselves, right? So let's break down 3 essential systems that you need. Number 1 is documented processes, right? Those are going to be your SOPs. right? If you don't know what SOP stands for, right, that's your standard operating procedures. These are the documents that tell your employees exactly what they need to do in every single scenario. And Trevor mentioned I was an airline pilot, right? Let me tell you, I had this case that was about this big and about this thick and weighed about 45 pounds. And again, this is back before iPads. And I carried this case with me everywhere I went when I was flying as an airline pilot. Why? Because that case was full of manuals that were about that thick. And there was probably 6 of them that told me exactly what I needed to do in every single situation. If a fuel pump went out on the jet, it told me exactly what to do step by step. If, the engine caught on fire, step by step, what do I need to do? Right? The SOPs were all there. So I didn't need, the owner of the airline being, on speed dial to be like, okay, the engine's on fire. What should I do? Oh, now both engines are on fire. What should I do? Right?
Yeah. And let me put it this way. If you're relying on the owner of the airline, you're really in trouble because most of them were not pilots. They were never pilots. And you know what is funny about that? I am going to say, we talk about this in other podcasts, but when you hire the right people, you can trust them and you want them to be, they are the expert. And I have to tell my clients this because we've been in business for 27 years. We have clients who've been with us for 27 years. We have clients who want to talk to me. They want to talk to Troy. Heck, they still call and want to talk to Ron. Ron's been retired for like 8 years or whatever, It's like, so, but I have to tell them, hey, I love chatting with them. I love catching up. It's so great. And then I'm like, now, on to your question, I need to get you over to Isaac, or I need to get you over to Mark V, or I need to get you over to Mark H, or, or Nick or Shay. It's like, I need to get you to the person who tried to talk to you in the first place because they're the expert. That's why I hired them. They are better at it than I am. Hire better than you, hire smarter people than you, hire experts in whatever that is. And then trust them, right? Trust them.
Exactly. So you got to have those SOPs in place first, right? Those are going to be clear step-by-step instructions for these recurring tasks that they're going to do. Next, you need to give them decision-making guidelines. And what that means is if this happens, do this, right? So for example, if a customer calls in and asks for a refund, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to say. This is right. This is what you're going to do. And you can have guidelines in there like, hey, at your level, right? If a customer asks for a refund, this is the amount that you can refund.
Yes.
Anything above that needs to go up to the next level, right? To a supervisor. So you give them the ability, you give them the guidelines of the decisions that they can make and let them do that, right? And then you give them defined roles, meaning that everyone should know exactly what they own in the company, right? What is their job and what can they make decisions on? So because that's how they're going to manage themselves, right? So, for example, you could have like a childcare center or a service business, where you have a team member that takes over the communication with the parents or the clients, right? But because you give them a clear script of how they're going to communicate with that client or with that parent, right? You're not just letting them choose whatever they want to say. You've defined exactly what they're going to say, and how they're going to say it, and then they follow that script, right? So those processes are defined for them. Okay, step number 2, you got to create a culture of accountability, right? So autonomy doesn't work without accountability, right? If they're not accountable for the actions they take, then it doesn't matter. So there are 3 ways that you're going to build this accountability. Number 1 could be scorecards and KPIs, right? Basically, each role has a small handful of measurable wins. So for example, it might be that, if you have techs out there that are, doing home service stuff, they need to complete X amount of jobs a day, right? That's their KPI that you're looking for. If it's someone that is customer support, that's answering phones, right? You're going to have measurable, like, hey, look, you need to answer X number of, X percentage of calls need to be answered. You can only have X number of missed calls in a single day. And if you have a missed call, you need to get back to them within X amount of time, right? So you're setting up these rules with them. And then you're scoring them based on that. That's the accountability. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to have weekly check-ins, right? So these are going to be short, structured meetings to track the commitments that they've made, right? It does you no good to track the numbers if you never go over the numbers. If you never look at the numbers and you never go over the numbers with your employees, how are they going to know how they're doing, right? So you need to have those short, they don't need to be long meetings, but short structured meetings to go over how well they're doing and where they need to improve, right? And then you need to give them that ownership mindset, meaning you teach your team members to come with solutions, not problems. And Trevor is great at this, right? Employees will come knock on Trevor's office door and be like, hey, Trevor, I've got this situation. This, this customer said this, what should I do? And Trevor, what do you always say to him?
I always say, well, what would you do? I turn it back around on them. What would you do?
Yeah. And then they say, oh, well, I would do this. And then he's like, yep, that's exactly what I would do. Now go do that. Yeah. Right. He's teaching them that they need to come with a solution.
Yep.
Right. Don't come to me with a problem. Come with a solution to the problem. And then 2, he's helping them understand that they know what to do. They already know it, which empowers them to just do it the next time without having to come and ask the question.
That's right.
Right. So really important there.
Okay. I love that. I love that. And literally you can tell your employees, like, look, you guys, I trust you. You know what to do. So if you want to come to me, if you need to come to me because you just need to verify or whatever it is, come to me and say, here's the problem or here's the situation. Here's what I'm thinking. From the get-go, I want to hear your solutions. So when you bring me a problem or a situation, bring me the solution. Tell them that, Yeah,
exactly. Okay. Step number 3, you want to empower them with real autonomy. And what that means is people do their best work when they feel trusted. So you've got to let them know that they're trusted and that they can actually make the decisions, and you're going to trust them to make the right decision. So one way to do that is what Trevor just talked about, right? They, in the beginning, when they're not quite sure, they're coming to him, they're bringing the problem and the solution, and he's confirming, yep, that's exactly what I would do. Go do it, right? And then by giving them that trust and showing them that they're making the right decisions, now they're not going to need to come anymore, right? Because they know that they can trust their own decision. So there are several practical ways to empower them to do this. One is give authority with responsibility, right? So that means, again, like we've talked about, maybe it's, refunds. We tell them, hey, this is the amount that you can refund up to. And then above that, you need to come to somebody. So that gives them the ability, they have the authority to do something, right? Yep. So that's really important. Give them authority. Maybe it's over budgeting, right? How much they can spend. That's another thing. What were we talking? I remember a couple of weeks ago on one of our podcasts, we talked about, I think it was the Ritz-Carlton, and I think it was the $1,500 or $2,000. I think it was the $2,000 rule, where basically Ritz-Carlton said, like, any employee down to the janitor can give a guest of the hotel up to $2,000 in services without having to get approval from anybody, right? To solve a problem. So that's talk about empowering them, right? Yeah. To be able to make a decision up to $2,000 worth of services without needing anybody else's approval, right?
Exactly.
So that's a probably a more extreme version of it, but you can see that's how important their reputation is, right? Now, the next thing is use the 70% rule. So if your team can do it 70% as well as you, then you can delegate it.
Yep.
And I know that's going to sound scary because you're like, oh, 70%, that's a C. But if they can do it 70% as good as you, then you can delegate it. And guess what? You can train them and teach them and help them get better so that they do it 80%, 90%. Or like Trevor said, with our employees, right? A lot of times they can do it better than us because they've been trained and they have the skills and they do it all day long. So they can do it better, right?
Yep.
So look for ways to do that. Encourage safe to fail experimentation. And what that means is if your employees are so afraid to fail at something, then they're not going to be able to make a decision and they're not going to be able to move forward and they're not going to be able to manage themselves, right? So if they make one bad mistake, one bad decision, and you're all over them of like, oh my gosh, how could you do that? I can't believe you said that to that customer. I can't believe you did that with that customer. And you just tear them apart because of that one mistake, then they're never going to be able to manage themselves, right? There's got to be room where it's okay for them not to be perfect. And then you can take those moments and you can teach them how to be better, right? So give them that ability. And then create space for innovation through regular feedback loops, right? So have feedback where they can give you feedback to help improve the systems and you can give them feedback so that they can better manage themselves, right? So that's really important. Okay, now, how do you transition into a self-managing team without just creating massive chaos in your business? Because the last thing you want to do, right? You're trying to get more freedom. The last thing you want to do is create chaos, start a bunch of fires in your business, and now you have no freedom at all because you're putting out these fires, right? So you got to have a roadmap for implementation. So first thing, number one, start with just one department or one team member, right? You don't have to change the entire company all at once. Pick one department or one team member that you can start working with them so that they can be self-managing, right? And do the things that we've talked about. You can also create systems, put systems in place before delegating fully to them, right? Have those SOPs in place, have all those procedures in place, have everything ready to go. I like to think of those as kind of like when your little kids go bowling and they have the little bumper things, so that the ball never goes into the gutter. That's what you want to do for your employees. You're going to put the bumpers up. You're going to put systems in place that are going to protect them from going in the gutter. And then as they get better and better, they're not going to need the bumpers anymore. But again, better to have those systems in place. Honestly, you can keep those in there forever because eventually they might move up into another position and you're going to put someone else doing that job and the bumpers are there ready to protect them too, right? So your systems are your bumpers that keep your employees safe. The other thing too is train, don't dump, right? And this is one of the biggest problems as owners. We're like, okay, I am so busy. I can't take care of this anymore. And we just dump a job on our employees. And it's like, here you go. And we don't train them. We just throw it on them and we're like, you'll figure it out. That's not how we do it, right? We've got to train them. We've got to walk them through the process. And yes, it's going to take more time for us to do that with them initially than it is for us to do the job. But guess what? Once we have that in place, now we don't have to do that job anymore. And we've gotten more time back and they're managing themselves. But you got to make sure that you train them right off the bat. Yes. And then gradually increase autonomy and reduce check-ins. So in the beginning, you're going to be kind of helping them along the way. You're going to be checking in, making sure things are going good. But as you see that things are going well, you're going to give them more responsibility, more leeway, and you're going to check in less because now they're doing a good job. If you don't do that, if now you just are micromanaging them, then you haven't benefited at all. And they're not really managing themselves, right? And then the last thing is celebrate wins publicly to reinforce that behavior, right? When they do a really good job, let everybody know, celebrate it publicly. When in our company meetings, when someone, is talking to a client and does an amazing job helping them and we get a review in that talks about that individual specifically, we share it. with everybody, right? We celebrate the win. When we are watching our KPIs and things are moving in the right direction, we celebrate that with our team and we let them know, hey, guys, you're doing a great job. Customer support team, success coaches, your retention is awesome right now. Great job. So it's important to do that as well, right? And then again, kind of a pro tip, expect a learning curve, right? The first few weeks may feel slower, but after that, performance is going to skyrocket. So, give them time to get into the flow, and then you'll see the results. All right. Anything, Trevor, you want to add before we do our kind of final takeaways?
Well, no, I think that was really good. I'm all chillaxed because I just got home from, like I said, 12 days in Hawaii. So I'm like on chill time, man.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting back enjoying the episode today. And guess what? You all can do that too. You can go on vacation when you create a team that is self-managed, right? So that's really the key here. Is it's going to take a little bit of work at first, but in the long run, this is how you grow. This is how you are able to step back and honestly accomplish more while hopefully having to do less. All right. So let's go over like 3 big takeaways. Would be, I think, systems create clarity would be one. Accountability creates consistency, I would say. So accountability, that's going to create consistency with your employees. And that is so important because either you're using the carrot or the stick. And
yes,
unfortunately, often the stick works best. And so it's like, if you just create the accountability and hold them to that, you're going to get that consistency out of that. And then autonomy creates growth. And that's really what we all want. We want to grow. You want to be able to not just step back and, have a team that knows what they're doing, but you want to grow while doing it, right? Because that's the key. We want to keep growing. We don't want to, be falling up hot and falling away. And so I saw, and I think we talked about this. I actually mentioned it in another podcast recently, but it was like, I was showing Troy this statistic about companies that make it to $3 million and then they stall out at $3 million. And there's probably a lot of you that were like, oh man, I'd love to be doing $3 million, Well, guess what? There's a statistic that shows that people make it to 3 million. So they make it to it's like that hard push to get to that first million. And then from 1 million to 3 million is actually easier because you kind of have the systems and processes in place usually by that point and the people. And so going from 1 to 3 million is easier. But then they hit 3 million and they stall out. And I think, I can't remember, was it within 5 years or 10 years, somewhere in between there, Troy, something like that.
Yeah.
They actually go away. They disappear, which is kind of crazy, right? A lot of you are thinking, man, I just want to get to $3 million. I can't even imagine that once I'm at $3 million, you think how good your life would be, right? But that is the statistic. It's a high percentage of them stall out at $3 million. And within, let's just say 10 years, because I don't have the stat in front of me, they disappear. The company is gone. So that's something to think about. We want to continue to grow. We want to be growing.
Well,
so
and it's related. It's really related to what we're talking about today. One of the biggest reasons that they fail at that point is because they don't have a self-managing team.
Yes.
To keep growing the business. The business owner is the bottleneck at that point, and they end up just, not being able to grow from there because they don't have the right team in place to continue to grow without the business owner doing everything.
That's right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. So yes, guys. So this week, you can see how important this is. This week, I need you to create a task for yourselves that you can accomplish this week, which is putting some sort of system into place for delegating something to your employees. Pick a department, pick an employee, and let's get them to start self-managing. It does take time. It's taken us 27 years to build the bomb team. We got the bomb.com team, my friends. And that's what you guys want. I mean, I can literally walk away and the work continues to get done. And yes, Troy was here, but there are times where Troy and I are gone at the same time, whether it's because we're traveling for work or for pleasure, right? We might not both be here at the same time. And the team knows what they're doing and they're cranking and they're selling and the company's growing when we're not standing over them. So that is really what you guys want to do. All right. Well, we love you. We appreciate you. We're glad to be back with you. It is the holiday time. I'm so excited. This week we got turkey going on. So hopefully you guys have a nice juicy turkey. You have a great time with family and friends. Hopefully no big family fights or things like that. And we will see you guys on the next episode, which will be between Thanksgiving and Christmas. What? The year is over, but really, actually, my birthday is on the 14th of December. So really, it's my birthday's next. So I'll let you all join me for that for my birthday. How about that? All right, everybody. We love you. Appreciate you. Like, subscribe, and share the heck out of this. We will check you out on the next episode of SoTellUs Time.